Hello, fellow Pops. I'm Dr. F Scott Feil, and I'm bringing you a message from our sponsor at Ice Shaker. My diet's always been a little bit messed up most of my life, and I recently started trying to take back control of my health. And one of the issues my doctor pointed out was that I needed to make an increase in my protein intake. Now, I can't eat chicken breasts all day, every day, so protein shakes and powders have become a big help. Ice Shaker and its built-in removable agitator is an amazing product. They come in a bunch of sizes and colors, and you can even get inscriptions and logos on them. They're stainless steel, double wall insulated, and hold ice for 30 plus hours. If you're interested in purchasing one, you can click on the link in our show notes. Or if you're interested in selling them for your business and making commission, and let's be honest, if you're listening to the Professors of Profit vlogcast and you can consider yourself a pop or a professor of profit, you're likely interested in selling these as a side hustle. You can click on that link in the show notes as well. Or you can reach out to me directly on social media. I'm pretty available there. I love Ice Shaker, and I'm betting you, your patients, and your clients will too. Ice Shaker, let's shake things up. Now let's start the show. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Professors of Profit vlogcast. I'm your host, Dr. F Scott Feil, and I've got with me longtime friend, former classmate, Dr. Matthew Cloutier. Matt, how the heck are you, man? Good to catch up with you.
Good, man. It's been a long time. It's been pretty awesome.
So tell us a little bit about your journey and kind of how it led you into a side gig or side hustle, doing some like sports training camps and things like that.
Oh man, so it's gonna put my age out there. So in December it'll be like 17 years. So for PT, so it's been definitely a grind for everything. 2 years as a traveling PT, then got locked down to about three and a half years with a big physio clinic in Physiotherapy Associates in Westchester. At the time is the third largest grossing clinic in the country, and they housed all like professional baseball players. I think Kurt Schilling even went there. So it was kind of a good start for me to see a ton of sports in ortho. And then I decided to try my hand in another company that I've been ever since in Kinetic. And it allows me to kind of do a little bit more with what I want to do. But where I got on my side hustle or side business would be more when I was at physio. My mentor at the time told me we saw a lot of injuries, a lot of from the local aspects. I had my background in soccer and tennis, and we saw a lot of soccer players. So he said, I think you need to come up with a program that kind of would help mitigate or just keep an eye on the actual injuries that we see coming out of there. So I did. I just came up with, took the exercises that we did, that we saw that would be beneficial in terms of like hip strengthening, stability, ankle stability, things like that would be pertinent to the game itself and the injuries, including the genders. Started with the boys at first, just because they were attracted to it the most. They loved it the most. So we did that. Did a 12-week course. Did evals pre and post. Just to see how they would all respond. Of course, they all responded well. And there was 3 phases almost. The first phase would be the month long, then it would progress up a little bit, second phase, second month, and then so on and so forth, all the way to third. And this would lead them right up to preseason. So they would be completely ready for the 2-week preseason before they get right into the games. And we saw a lot of the injuries definitely reduce. And a lot of them were extremely healthy and resilient in terms of like throughout the year. But we also realized too, to where there's kids that are going to be getting hurt, because it's contact sport. So, but we also realized that instead of being catastrophic or 6 to 8 weeks, they were like maybe 2 to 4, if that, or if they're 4 to 6, it might be just 2 weeks, something like that, to where there's still a bit of play, but the risk of injury would be further reduced. So during that time, we had some girls that came on and said we want to start their own. So I ended up starting out with 6 girls, and then started kind of progressive going forward. Then I ended up getting a couple football players, ended up playing in college, and then did some lacrosse, and just kind of built my following that way. And then I took my business into the company I have now, and I built it out of program so that way I can have it under one roof, which made it a lot easier because I could actually plug in the time underneath my schedule to be able to do it instead of trying to like finagle everything. And then I was spread through too thin. I mean, at the time when I moved, I had only one kid. Now I have three. So it's like, it just didn't make sense. Became pretty tough. So
Yeah, you
we
become
start.
a glorified cab driver when you got three kids, man.
Oh yeah, we're always playing your man down all the
Yeah.
time. So
Yep.
it's just controlled chaos. You just know it's coming. It's just at what area for
Yeah.
sure.
Yep.
Um, so then when we did this, I did the program, started Connect Sports Performance in 2013. Goal One Performance was 2010 when I started. So it moved over. And so we're inside now a 122,000 square foot facility. It used to be an old airport hangar. So it's got two turfs, um, 4 to 6 basketball courts that can convert to volleyball. It's got an all purpose court, and we're on the upper mezzanine, which is all turf as well, about 3,000 square feet. And then there's 4 turfs outside, and I think almost anywhere from 6 to 11 grass fields outside. So it's enormous. So the amount of sports that come in there are huge. So I wanted to find a place where we could use the program as a building block from PT to the actual return to play, because many times you just discharge them based off of no pain, manual muscle testing, things like that, and you're good to go. But they don't have game speed, they don't have game strength. Back to the load isn't there for them to kind of be able to adapt appropriately. So we wanted to be able to get a section to where it's easy and seamless through, and they can be challenged a little bit more. And we found great success with that.
Well, and
And
vice
yeah,
versa too, right? They can go from being healthy and training with you to, oh, I'm injured now, I got to go to PT,
correct.
right? Which is a
Yep.
very cool two-way street.
Yeah. Keeping it under the sports medicine umbrella, I think, is huge, because then they always feel like someone's always there as being able to watch, instead of like, okay, you're done. I'll see you when I see you. You want to always be able to keep that kind of connection with them, which is huge. So yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So tell us a little bit about, like professors maybe, right? Or clinicians, right? New grads who are interested in sports physical therapy, or like you said, sports medicine, just the umbrella, right?
Mhm.
Why should they consider something like a training camp, or like a cross training camp for getting athletes, prepped and ready for their preseason? Like that, that's not necessarily treating and getting an injury rehabbed. It's almost like, preseason training to get ready for their sport, right? Why should somebody consider that as like a side gig or side hustle?
I feel that at this point in time, you have an ability to control what you can control. And at this point in time, is that if we all have opinions on how we feel could shape the way things people train, because there's a lot of coaches out there that are very good, and there's ones that are just trying to do what they can, and they just might not know. And but then you have the problem is always the amount of time you have. Never enough time. You might have 2 hours worth of practice, an hour and a half of practice, but they know they should strength train, but they have other things on the agenda to be able to handle in terms of technical, tactical things like that, and game speed. So it's like, I don't want to waste my time strength training, so I can do all those things. And plus, if those kids need to strength train, they would just go off and do it on their own. So why not be that other person? Why not be that other person to communicate to the coaches and say, listen, not only are you you can train them, but you can train them in a way to where will be beneficial, especially in the minds of a physical therapist. And then you can help work with them in terms of injury reduction, things like that. So it's the best of both worlds, I believe, to be able to handle those things. That's how we've always done it. We work with a lot of soccer teams to where it's like an injury mitigation, almost, where we know to where there are certain periods of time, especially during their maturation, to where they're more susceptible to injury based off their gender, their sport, things like that. So we have equations where we can plug them in to figure out where they are, and if they're like flag up yellow, then we know that those people need to do just more of the injury reducing exercises. along with doing everything else everybody else is doing. So it just means it's almost like another protective mechanism to be able to do it, which is huge. Once again, helping it to where it's going to minimize the risk during that heightened sense of injury. So for me, I think that if you really want to handle like sports and you want to handle this epidemic that we're having of overuse injuries, it's almost like instead of just saying, why are they doing this? Why not? I said, why aren't you doing something to help with those things? I think that's the key.
Yeah, I mean, that's huge. And I love the fact that, again, you guys kind of do a screening eval type where you've got a baseline now on the player, right? So you can check throughout the season if you need to, what levels they're at. You can seek out deficiencies before you even get started. And like you said, get them caught up to speed by working on some of those things.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, again, at the end of the day, it's kind of a cash cow too, because it's like, yeah, you have patients coming in and out for physical therapy and paying you a fee for service some way or another, right? Whether it be reimbursement through insurance or cash pay. But these camps, these strength and conditioning screens and camps, that's straight cash. That's like, hey, if you want your player to be, top level, it's almost like an investment in their health and in their career or their future, right? So I mean, it's a nice little side gig to, like you said, kind of weave into the physical therapy business and keep it under that umbrella, And
I think too, I totally agree. And I think that the glue that literally holds everything together in terms of PT and performance and training and sports in general is like data. And I think that when you touched on it, what you just said is that baseline testing, there's tests all that you can do in terms of, 1RM, lower body strength, upper body strength, speed, agility, things like that. But what can we do to test asymmetries, movement deficiencies, things like that, power output? Are you using your right via your left more? Reasons why, because one person, could do a counter movement jump simply up and down and it looks great. But then the force plates or the plantiga pods that we have, they tell something different. And then from there, if they haven't told you that they've had an injury, then you ask them, you dive a little deeper. Did you have an injury? Yeah, I had my ankle sprain on my left. And like, that makes sense. But there's no pain. But once again, maybe the rehab that they went before, or they didn't fully get back, these are those things. And I think it's even more important to where when we do ACL testing, everyone does the triple hop, the single hop for distance, time, 6 meters, things like that. But those are objective measures that are still taken subjectively. And I think that's the key to where when we do force plates and things like that, we'll do our testing along with those. And, we'll have people score off the charts and be like, you're back. But then if you test them, you're like, I don't know. You're just, you seem like you're having a very weird movement pattern to where you're still compensating on that one side. So at that point in time, then it's like, we got to work more on this to get your movement pattern better and go from there. And then, but you can do the same thing PT wise, you can do the same thing for performance. Reasons why you're not sprinting all the way. Why do you always keep having hamstring strains or those things like that? So it's like, all right, well, let's get you this way and a point of reference. I think that's the key.
Yeah. And I think too, like, all right, if I'm a knowledgeable physical therapist in strength and conditioning and sports, right, I can help do these things. I can set these programs up. I can run these screens and these tests and stuff. Whereas a soccer coach might not necessarily be able to do it to the level that a medical professional would, right? That being said, I'm not going to teach a kid some soccer tricks and skills because I don't know them, right? I'm going to stay in my lane and do the thing I know how to do. And I'll let the coach handle the skills and the player, side of things. So I think it's a pretty good match and it's a pretty good fit for teams, local teams, especially, the K through 12 age or even, the college age to kind of help with that, right? A lot of the college programs have their own strength and conditioning and stuff like that. So they're set, right? I'm looking more toward the younger age groups, especially when it starts getting into like select and travel ball and things like that, it's really starting to become an investment and the parents are super, interested in all the aspects and all the level up, the cheat codes, so to speak, out there, so these can kind of be one of those things. But what are some tips, some tricks, some pointers that you learned along the way for somebody who may want to start up their own little side business or side gig as a cross training or a preseason training, strength and conditioning training for young athletes?
So I feel like there's two things. There's nationally that you or worldly that you would find out the problems, and then find out, or do those same problems exist around you. Dr. James Andrews had a good interview a little while ago, and he talked about two words: professionalism and specialization. And they both are related to like the adolescent sports. And specializations, obviously, where someone gets specialized within theirs and they're doing like soccer, lacrosse 24/7. That's all they do. And then there's professionalism, almost where those club sports or whatever are treating those young athletes that are still kids as professional athletes. That means they have no idea in terms of maturation and everything else. So my tip would be to where, like, we know that goes on globally, nationally, things like that. But I'm sure they're going at the same area around you, but to what degree? So find out locally or where you are, how you can make a difference. You know, are there sports teams and things like that that maybe they have training? Okay, how can you help out, be a better service to maybe be an advocate for them as a guidance? Maybe those players don't have any training. Maybe you can offer those services as well. And you can come out like once a week and things like that, do training as well, and then do the off-season training, because we both know where in season is all about maintenance. Like, it's one time a week, so it's high velocity, high intensity, low volume. But off season is where the load comes in a little bit more. So for me, I would think that how I did is like, you find your areas and stay within your comfort zone. Get really good at those. If it's like, let's just say like you're really good at soccer, I'm like, okay, stick with those. And then you realize some of those soccer players might have carryover, depending on gender, into field hockey, lacrosse, things like that. So then you can say, okay, look at the injuries that maybe those teams have had. Where are they lacking? Things like that. So we can try to figure out how you can help in those areas, and go to the coach and say, how can I help you? I think that's the biggest thing, because if you come in guns blazing, I can do this, this, and this, it might be like, I don't know. But just having a candid conversation, almost trying to find a way to take things off his or her plate, is huge. Because then it's like, I'll handle everything. Just give me your kids, and be like, that's fine. And then if you're able to do those things per their goals, then there you go.
Yeah, it's relationship building, right? It's being able to go in there and talk to the coach, you know, and build that relationship, build that trust, right? And get them to know, like, and trust you enough to put their athletes in your care, you know? So I think that's huge. Well, Matt, thank you so much, man, for taking the time and for coming on to chat about, cross training and preseason training and strength and conditioning. Where can people reach out to you if they have any follow-up questions or just want to see what you're up to these days?
Oh, geez. I have social media, but I am like very bad. It relates to my age. I think that.
Hey, man, I'm the same age, so be careful there.
Yeah. I think you can reach me at Matt B_Cloutier for my Twitter, and my Instagram, I believe, is just MB Cloutier. So right. I think those two, and then you can reach me at my email, and you can do Matthew C at kineticptpa.com. I think those three things are really good for me to be able to be available.
All right, man. I'll drop all those links in the show notes so people can find you easily. Always a pleasure to catch up, man. I appreciate you.
Thanks, man. Enjoyed it. Appreciate it.